Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm David Blain, your host, and today we're talking about some tax issues. If you missed the first segment, head on over to the website, www.dlblain.com. We were talking about how the United States is now officially the #1 highest corporate tax rate in the world. We have been above the OECD country average for quite a number of years, but with Japan's rate cut April 1st, we're now officially #1. Head over to taxfoundation.org if you want some more good research on that, but it's some excellent information. And when you look at the economic freedom indexes, you look at the tax index, you look at all sorts of different things, you see that the tax policy in this country, and it's not just one party or the other, it's Congress and this mindset of big government and taxing the people that has caused us to lose our competitive from both sides of the aisle. I got another example here of something that's wrong with the tax code. You know, there's the health care laws right now at the Supreme Court trying to determine whether it's constitutional or not. It'll probably get overturned. But one of the things that's happened over the years, that the health care solution, there's so many problems with health care in America, and there are different fixes. I mean, one we highlight on this show is the fact that half of the health care costs in the country go to 5% of the people. So you talk about, you know, the top 1% of wealth. Well, the top 5% of spenders of health care consume half of the country's health care expenses, and nobody talks about that. Nobody wants to do anything about that. The other thing is the tax code is just a myriad of unequal tax credits. For example, if you get health care through your employer, it's treated one way, but on your personal return, it's subject to the itemized deduction phase-out limits, and there's all sorts of different things. And this is another perfect example. Is a couple of years ago, Congress enacted the small business health care credit. This was part of the Obamacare, or Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act of 2010, as it's formally known. And it was supposed to help small businesses as they experience this health care reform. So companies were eligible if they had 25 workers or fewer and paid average salaries of $50,000 or less to cover at least half of employee health insurance premiums. So that's great. You know, help small businesses out. You know, pay an average salary of $50,000 or less. I don't understand why they want to discriminate against a business if they pay high salary. It doesn't make any sense to me. Don't we want to encourage employers to pay a high salary? Maybe not. In fact, this. So anyway, this health care credit, I have a small business. I looked at this credit, and of course it doesn't apply to me. The rules are so, just a myriad of rules that are very confusing. The calculations are very complex. It doesn't apply. We have a Section 105 medical reimbursement plan in our company, which does not apply. If you have a Section 105 plan, this doesn't apply. This only applies if you pay at least 50% of the health insurance premiums directly to a health insurance company. In our case, we choose to reimburse the employee tax-free for their health care premiums, or in the case if maybe their spouse already has health care, that way they can use the money for anything. It's a far superior plan, in my opinion. But anyway, so this credit doesn't apply. For people that it does apply, it takes these complex calculations to determine whether your company qualifies or not. And then in the end, you know, the maximum credit is just not enough to make it worthwhile. In fact, there was a joke that someone was saying that whenever Congress passes a new tax law, they should call it an Accountant Employment Act, because it increases the work for the accountants but doesn't really do much for the taxpayers. And, you know, seeing as how we prepare taxes for our clients, you know, I'm laughing at that because it's absolutely true. Whenever they pass one of these things, we see very little benefit accrue to the taxpayer. Half the time, you know, that doesn't apply, or the hoops you have to jump through cost more than the benefit from it, and so that's why I laugh. But anyway, so nobody's taking advantage of this health care tax credit. I have the numbers here. As of November, only 309,000 small businesses received the tax credit for 2010, average credit of $1,400, amounting to a total of $435 million. Okay. 309,000 small businesses. Do you know how many small businesses? There are millions and millions of small businesses out there with less than 25 employees. It just, this particular thing is so complicated, so many exclusions. You've got to calculate, you know, the average rate of employees and different, you know, salaries and different things. It's so complex that the fees that you end up paying to somebody to figure it out generally end up being more than the tax credit. Anyway, it's just an example of why tax simplification is such an important thing that we need to do. Instead of continually passing new rules to patch, fix different things, we really need to go for some sort of comprehensive overhaul of the tax code. In our next segment, as you're doing your taxes out there, we're going to talk about a couple. Let me see, I've got 2, 3, maybe 5 or 6 things that are taxable that you may not have known were taxable when you're doing your when you're preparing your income taxes. So we'll talk a little bit about those, some pitfalls to look out for. Well, coming up on the next break, so for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain. Hope you'll come back after this short commercial break from our sponsor.